We got a bunch of news for you today for Nintendo Switch 2. Some of it dealing with some cool stuff like some pre-order updates, including timing at all the different retailers. The idea that a Nintendo Switch 2 cart for an upcoming Switch 2 game can also be used inside the original Nintendo Switch. Now that's a revelation here. Also, a brand new AAA game looks like it's coming to Nintendo Switch 2, and it's one of those ones that is only on PlayStation 5, Xbox, and PC, and some more. And like that game we're going to be talking about, whether you like the game or not, kind of just furthers the conversation of what the Switch 2 is actually capable of running. Now, before we dive in, I just want to remind you, we are giving away a Nintendo Switch 2. All you got to do is click on the link down in the pinned comment or in the description. Also, hey, we're on the road to 150,000 subscribers. So if you're enjoying the content, I would love it if you would subscribe to the channel. Let's go ahead, though, and check this out. We're first going to go head over to where I saw this first, and it's Nintendo. And it says, according to Rune Factory Guardians of Azuma's publisher, Marvelous, the Nintendo Switch 2 Edition physical release is a red 64GB game card that will work on both Switch 1 and Switch 2. And I went to their website, and yes, this is actually on the website. And it does say the Nintendo Switch 2 Edition is a red 64GB game card that includes in full the Nintendo Switch game and the upgrade pack. So kind of like a Switch 2 Edition game, right? But there's no need to download the full game. Simply insert the card either into a Nintendo Switch or a Nintendo Switch 2 console, and the correct version will launch automatically. Like most modern titles, there could be some small updates and patches and all that stuff, but the game is actually complete on card and ready from day one. Now, one thing to be said about this is never expected the first game to kind of confirm you could use the red cartridge on Switch 1 and Switch 2 to be Rune Factory. Really interesting that this game is, one, it needs a 64GB game card. That's shocking in that of itself. How big is this game? But besides that somehow the red cartridge actually can work on Switch 1. It does make you wonder if things like the Switch 2 edition of Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom can also sit back and work on Switch 1 as well as Switch 2, but just Switch 2 will load with the extra content and Switch 1 it won't. That's a very fascinating thing here, because that's not really how it works in the world of PlayStation and Xbox. Yes, there are some versions of the game that you can put on PS4, but if you put it on PS5, it recognizes it and downloads some sort of upgrade pack. But this is all on cartridge, just like it would be all on disc. It usually doesn't work this way. I find this just to be a really interesting feature, and I'm kind of surprised Nintendo didn't talk about it, because is it going to confuse people? I mean, I hope it doesn't. But we can't ignore that, there's been a lot of confusion around Nintendo Switch, so I almost assume people might get more confused by this, even though it's actually kind of cool. Now, when we dive in further on Nintendo, Nintendo's doing some weird things with their updates, and it's causing a lot of debate. We actually had to talk about this on the live stream last night, and I don't really have a good explanation. Nintendo is removing a feature reportedly from the Nintendo Switch 2, and when we say remove it, maybe it was never there, but they're removing, or should I say updating, some words on their website. So when we go over here, it says Nintendo has seemingly removed any mention of variable refresh rate VRR support from their Switch 2 hardware pages in North America and Japan, but it's still up in Europe. And it's still about Europe today. It's up on a bunch of websites, but you can kind of see, before April 17th, it would say, take in all the new detail with screen resolutions up to 4K. When you connect the Nintendo Switch 2 to a compatible TV using the dedicated dock, the system also supports HDR, VRR, and frame rates up to 120 FPS on compatible TVs. Then you look down below, and it says, connect the Nintendo Switch 2 system to a compatible TV using the dedicated dock. The system also supports HDR and frame rates up to 120 FPS on compatible TVs. They got rid of the mention of VRR. Now, what's interesting is that, as is pointed out here, is that by this Nintendo God account, that yes, they do mention variable refresh rate via G-Sync, but that's also only in handheld mode. They're not. This post isn't about handheld mode. This is about docked mode. Those are not the same things, and nowhere in the NVIDIA post does it mention VRR in dot mode. Well, variable refresh rate is something that basically gets rid of screen tearing when frame rates aren't consistent. And so it's actually a really important feature. Now, Nintendo Switch never had this feature. And look, going back to like PlayStation 4 and earlier consoles, yeah, it wasn't there either, but it has become a bit of an industry standard. And it would be weird if you can have variable refresh rate in handheld mode, but not in docked mode. Now, I must note, again, other territories didn't get rid of this language. Maybe this was just a mistake when someone was updating this page or updating the code for some reason. Maybe variable refresh rate is there. For what it's worth, it's the weekend, so I can't reach out to customer support and like ask them because obviously they're off. So maybe we get some clarification on this next week on if variable refresh rate is actually gone. But, you know, for right now, since we can't get anything verified, we just have to go off the website updates. And the website updates are saying that. Now, shout out to Nintendo again. We're going back to them. There's a lot of places we can go to this. I could go directly to the websites, but they have the screenshots of all of the websites. So we're going to go there because we're talking about the pre-order times at major retailers. So Walmart is going live at 12 a.m. Eastern on April 24th. GameStop, they're doing their pre-orders live at 11 a.m. These are online pre-orders. The in-store ones are just when the store opens. Target is going live at 12 a.m. Eastern as well. Best Buy is not. Now, I will note, I've had some people reach out to me and tell me that Best Buy is also going live at 12 a.m. Eastern, but I have not been able to verify or confirm that story, nor has anyone else. So for now, we'll just float that out there that Best Buy may also be going live, but we don't know. Amazon is not apparently taking pre-orders for Switch 2, but we can go look at the stuff here. It says Walmart Switch 2 pre-orders begin on April 24th. At 12 a.m. You can see the confirmation here by GameStop. What's also cool about the GameStop one, if you read this closely, everyone's just focusing on the time. Midnight releases will be held in, quote unquote, all stores, which means I need to call the one at my mall who said they wouldn't be doing one. Maybe they're being mandated they have to, hopefully given the budget to hire the mall security to do it. Also, this is a really cool thing GameStop is doing. They're offering a transfer and trade program to seamlessly upgrade to Switch 2 without losing data. Obviously, we don't know how that works and how that, but like, because a lot of people are going to want to trade in their Switch 2 towards or Switch 1 towards paying off their Switch 2. The transfer and trade program seems like a really great opportunity to not lose any of your data. But how the hell does that even work? Is Nintendo enabling them to do this or what? Now, it does have an asterisk that says subject to change. Look, is it only like if you bring it in on launch day to help pay off your system, then they just let you do a system transfer right there? And that system transfer right there could take forever. So you would hope that it's not going to be something like that, that maybe you can come in sooner than that. And maybe they have a system where you could transfer it to something that they have, and then they will system transfer it back over. I don't really know how that's going to work, but I think it's cool they're even offering that. Now, nobody else seems to be offering anything like that, so I think it's quite cool. And then if we go over here to Target, you can see obviously the 12 a.m. So you can just see all the confirmations of those dates. Now, I think that's all really neat. The next thing I don't think is so neat. Now, look, as much as people on the internet want to say I don't criticize Nintendo, reality is I definitely do bring criticism towards the company when I feel it's warranted. And look, everyone's loving $80 Mario Kart, right? We're all loving it. There's no controversy there. Everyone's loving no DLC packed in with Breath of the Wild Switch 2 Edition, right? Nobody's upset about that? Okay. Well, now you have more to be upset about. Wait a second. I was just told people are mad about the accessory prices going up despite the tariffs. I don't know what people thought was going to happen, but okay. Now you get more to be upset about. GameStop is showing price increases on the Amiibo. Now, I will note we don't know the dimensions of these Amiibo yet, so maybe these new Amiibo are bigger ones, and that's why they cost so much more. But look, you can see the Street Fighter ones are, $40 a pop when the game is only $60. That's a bit of a tough pill to swallow. The Zelda ones, obviously from Nintendo, we know that Nintendo controls the pricing directly on their own. Those are $30 a pop. And you can even see that, like, you used to get a Twin Series Pyramithra 2-pack for $30. You can see, obviously, Cloud for $16. You can see the standard price has been around $16, occasionally touching $20, but now $30. Look, I don't know why the prices have gone up. I don't know if these are being manufactured in China. I'm not really sure why the prices are higher. And of course, Nintendo's not doing interviews right now, so no one can really ask them about the Amiibo and why the prices are higher, or maybe those prices are wrong. Look, guys, not all the news is positive around Switch 2, and that's what kind of sucks as someone who's excited about the platform is I also have to cover the stuff that, is unfortunate and I don't really like talking about. But if I'm covering the news, I have to be fair in my coverage. There is good news and there is bad news. Now, to flip it back around on the good news side, you might not consider this good news. It's about a game coming to Switch 2, and the reason is maybe you don't like the game, but what it means should excite you. So as we go over here to the PEGI website, and it's weird how this shows up. When you go to the PEGI website, we're on the front page. This is one of the age rating boards, right? So we have obviously the ESRB in North America, and here we have the PEGI board for Europe. You'll see Assassin's Creed Shadows is listed for PlayStation 5, Xbox Series X and S, PC, and Nintendo Switch 2. That is the first time that's been announced. There was no confirmation of this before. This seemingly confirms it. Now, when you click on this, this is where it gets weird. It's not listed under platforms, but it is listed here. Now, it could just be because they want to make an official announcement. PEGI's aware of it because they've already rated that version of the game, but, it's just holding back to an announcement and someone put it on the page. Obviously, it could be a typo or someone ticked a wrong box. But then again, Assassin's Creed Shadows was previously on here without the Switch 2 thing, so someone would have had to go back in and update the rating to tick that box to put Switch 2 on there. So it's pretty safe to assume Assassin's Creed Shadows is probably coming over. And we can say that because it's a Ubisoft game. And what other game is Ubisoft bringing over? Well, this one right here, Star Wars Outlaws. And we talked about how that one's coming out on September 4th. So I find all of this to be fascinating because Outlaws and Shadows, the DLC for Cyberpunk, none of this stuff went to the prior generation of PlayStation and Xbox. They've only been on Xbox Series X, PlayStation 5, and PC. Well, Xbox Series S as well. And what I think this is showing to me is that the Nintendo Switch 2 is just a lot more capable than some people maybe want to give it credit for. I'm not saying it's an Xbox Series S. I'm not even saying it's a PlayStation 5. But I do think it is definitely showing just more and more evidence that this is not the PlayStation 4. It's a more capable, more modern chip, able to convert games to it much easier. Now, the question is always going to be how well the Star Wars Outlaws run, how well the Shadows run, how well the Cyberpunk run. We have some answers with Cyberpunk, although it's not the launch version, so not really. We just know it runs. So it's going to be quite interesting just to see how well these games perform on Switch, just from not just a visual standpoint, but obviously a frame rate standpoint, what resolutions they run at. But to me, it's a good sign these games are coming over. It's an even better sign if games like this and Hogwarts Legacy and others actually look and run fairly well, because that bodes well for the future of the platform, not just the here and now. So I don't know. I'm actually kind of excited by all of this. I don't know if you are, but what I do know is I got to go. I got to get editing this video. Actually doing this at like halftime of the Milwaukee Bucks game. Yes, they're losing. Yes, they're not looking good. Well, Giannis is looking good, but no one else is really looking good. It is what it is. We'll see what happens. Maybe Damian Lillard's back in game 2. What a miraculous recovery. You guys don't know what's going on in the sports world. He recovered faster than like any person ever from a deep vein thrombosis. Weird. All right, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in. I'll catch you in the next video.